midnight spank. Midnight just got a little darker.
They're stereotyped as a traditional people, but the Japanese treat new technology like a religion.
The things man constructs are, in Christian theory, the works of the devil. It ain't that way in a place like Japan.
The Japanese also have a yen for outrageous new sexual trends.
They have no Victorian tradition. For them, it's a physical act, pleasure.
Now, in a modern land where arranged marriages are on the decline, the cell phone plays Cupid and Madam.
I posted a notice saying, how about for 30,000 yen? Then he contacted me and asked me to meet him.
In Japan, a man can have intercourse outside of marriage as long as he pays for it with money and not love.
For decades, the Japanese have profoundly influenced the world from Pokemon to the Walkman. But does their powerful fusion of tech and sex represent the future of Western society?
The Japanese are sort of a uniquely 21st century society. The world is going to become like Japan.
Welcome to a world that's wired and wireless for sex. Tokyo is the most crowded city on Earth, but despite their constant proximity to each other, the Japanese have few acceptable ways of meeting people of the opposite sex. Traditionally, the Japanese required formal introductions to date because marriage was considered less a bond of love than a business arrangement between families. Parents would match their children with mates that seemed stable, reliable, and prosperous.
We used to have so-called arranged marriages regularly, but there are so few elderly women or men who want to introduce people and act as go-betweens these days. So the opportunities for men and women to meet have become scarce.
Today, Naomi Sigimura and her friend Sheko Agino don't wait for family introductions to meet men. Instead, they use a technological matchmaker, not a computer, but their mobile phones.
Everyone has a cell phone. Some people don't have their own computers, and some people still don't know how to use them. So I think the cell phone is used the most.
Naomi subscribes to a site called Asobo.com.
I can post where I am and who I am, or I can see where other people are. Then we contact each other. If we're close to each other, we decide to meet.
But dating sites in Japan have advanced features that are unavailable in the West. Some use GPS technology to alert a user when someone with a matching profile is in the same area. Similar rings can help the two people meet spontaneously. New phones also have built-in cameras or camcorders. Before she agreed to her last date, Naomi insisted on an instant background check. She made him take a picture of himself with his phone, then email it to her, all in a matter of seconds.
He was very cute, so I decided to meet him. We went to a restaurant. He had a good car, but he was just working at a designer clothing store. I wondered why. Then I found out that his personality was terrible.
Naomi has plenty more fish in the digital sea. More than half of Japan's 120 million people, and the vast majority of adults, use a cell phone.
Japanese use their cell phones for a lot more than just talking to people with. Some good examples are sending messages back and forth, pictures, videos, and recently you can actually search the web.
For centuries, the Japanese have embraced high-tech innovation. This may seem odd in a culture where tradition is so important, One reason for the paradox is that Japan's Shinto and Buddhist religions do not share Western resistance to new technology.
Machines of man, the things man constructs, are, in Christian theory, all vanity. They are possibly the works of the devil, meant to seduce and distract us from the Word of God. It ain't that way in a place like Japan. They have a much more open attitude toward their machines.
The Japanese have always been curious and open to ideas. And this is true, historically as well as the present. When the Westerners first came to Japan in the 1500s, immediately they started building Western ships. They wanted Western guns.
And now that arranged marriages and other traditional ways of finding mates are disappearing, more and more Japanese are looking to technology for help. Naomi, for example, is going on a date with a guy from asobo.com. But when real-life relationships aren't enough, the Japanese can turn to the fantastic sexual fantasies that are portrayed in the media. That's next on Wired for Sex.
Midnight Spank.
Jared here.
This is Midnight Spank.
The Japanese are often stereotyped as a formal, tradition-bound people. But ironically, their attitudes toward sexuality are far more open than those of many Western countries. Nowhere can this be seen more clearly than in Japan's media, where outrageous sexual fantasies are played out in quasi-public fashion. One of the most popular programs on the satellite channel, Paradise TV, is called No Holds Barred Sexual Harassment Heaven.
Basically, two amateur female contestants come to Paradise TV, and they're harassed in some sexual way. The disgusted faces are shown on camera, and the idea is that the audience is supposed to find that erotic.
This is reality TV, Japanese style. In Paradise programming, there's no love, no romance, and not even much intercourse. Sex is a game. These displays of sexuality, like the eagerness to adopt new technology, are the result of thousands of years of religious and cultural tradition.
They aren't as embarrassed. They don't have that kind of hatred of the body that we got from, St. Augustine, for instance. That's pretty powerful stuff. The suspicion of the body that comes out of early Christian writings, that really colors the way we approach these things. Because of that, sexuality has always been off to the side, repressed. It's always its own thing, whereas in Japan, it's much more mixed in with pop culture and art.
If you like them tied up, they have videos devoted to that. If you like the idea of going into a train and molesting the female passengers, they have videos devoted to that. There's no shame about this. We just have this need and we'll fill it. So it's all out in the open.
This freewheeling sexuality extends from television into all forms of media, from video games to cartoons called manga. Toshio Maeda is one of Japan's best-known manga artists. Like Paradise TV's reality show contestants, Toshio's comic book characters find themselves thrust into a perverse world of sexual fantasy.
The reason I started drawing monsters in adult anime was that if I draw two people on the bed making love, I wouldn't be able to publish it in Japan. The company would tell me to erase this and that. But if I use a monster, I can control a woman's position freely.
The women portrayed in manga are young, in part, so male readers can imagine themselves in a sexually dominant role.
Japanese men don't have confidence in themselves, so the men think they can control a woman who is younger and smaller than them. In fact, it's not true. But when you are with a small woman, men think they can show their masculinity. If you are with a regular woman, you have to respect her and have to deal with her opinion.
But while the Japanese media offer people sexual games and sexual fantasies, the country's high-tech society may actually be inhibiting real-life sex. That's coming up on Wired for Sex.
Midnight Spank.
Sexuality and sexual images are remarkably common in Japan, but they mask a debilitating national crisis. Ironically, the Japanese have sex and children less often than almost any other people on Earth. It's impossible to spot this profound effect of Japan's high-tech society in its cities, where most citizens live. But the signs are unmistakable in the hinterlands. And Shoichi Fukuhara have watched the number of people in the remote farming region of Sakamura in central Japan shrink by half over the last 3 decades.
When I was small, there were a lot of children in every family. People managed to have many children, even though the war made it hard.
There are many elderly in the village. The couple living below us is almost 80 years old. The one below them are 93. What will it be like in 10 years?
Small towns throughout Japan are dying as Kiyomi, Shoichi, and most of their countrymen choose not to have children. The few kids that are born move to the city as soon as they can.
In a village like this, people are very conservative. So kids leave the village, and their parents leave too. It's a very bad cycle.
If current trends continue, Japan's population could fall to 30 million, a quarter of its current number, over the next century. While the effects of Japan's baby bust are most apparent in small towns, the reasons for its existence can best be seen a 2-hour train ride away in Tokyo. The dramatic drop in the birth rate is linked to Japan's highly industrialized, urban, career-oriented society.
One of the reasons there aren't more children these days is that it is difficult to maintain a career and raise a family. The average marrying age is getting older. Women marry when they are 26 or 27 years old, men around 28 or 29.
While previous generations revered children and often tried to have as many as possible, many contemporary Japanese see kids as encumbrances to their increasingly high-tech society, where everything is expensive and homes are tiny.
Sometimes we call them rabbit warrens. That limits what we can do in the house. Also, the high cost of education causes stress. We tend to place a high value on higher education. Because of this, children are compared and measured against each other. This, of course, will bring out a tremendous stress in the house.
That's why a recent survey found that the average American adult has sex 4 times as often as his Japanese counterpart. Many people in the land of the rising sun see intercourse simply as an occasional treat. This attitude towards sex is perhaps most vividly displayed in the estimated 30,000 love hotels that dot Japan.
Love hotels that were developed because Japanese homes tend to be a lot smaller than their American counterparts. So basically it's a good place for couples to go to enjoy some time together without having to worry about people seeing them and gossiping about them.
As love hotels compete with each other for business, many have become elaborate, high-tech fantasy lands.
It's not just a room. It's not just a bed and a TV. It's usually a room with a theme. The boxing ring, there could be even a 1957 Chevy, or perhaps a big, huge pineapple bed.
Even these enticements don't encourage many Japanese to have intercourse.
Only 1/3 of the people go there solely to have sex. It's considered to be a place where 2 people can have private time, having fun playing, singing along, playing games, have sex, eat together, without being bothered by others.
If Japanese attitudes toward having kids don't change, the country's pension, medical, and welfare systems could collapse as the ratio of retirees to workers soars in the coming decades. With many parts of the world starting to experience similar trends in technology and sexuality, does Japan represent the future of our high-tech world? That's next on Wired for Sex.
Midnight Spank. This is Midnight Spank.
If you think you are introducing the block, Monday at 10, only on G4.
Midnight Spank.
The Japanese seem full of contradictions. They value tradition but openly embrace sexuality and new technology. Their teeming masses mask a falling birth rate, and their culture accepts 2 very different kinds of sexual intercourse. One involving an exchange of love, the other an exchange of money.
The two-faced culture permits many things. As long as a person is aware that there is a certain time and place, it permits a lot of things, including prostitution.
Haru has just arrived at a Tokyo karaoke box, and he texts his friend Itsuka to let her know he's there. Haru and Itsuka are married, but not to each other. They meet here once a month and then head to a love hotel. They call their relationship compensated dating.
Compensated dating has many forms. A girl can get paid monthly. The rate would be from $1,500 to $3,500. The one I'm working on right now is that I get paid $270 every time I see him.
A recent government survey found that some 10% of Japanese men pay for sex at least once a month. After Japanese women have children, men often see them only as mothers, and both partners can seek sex elsewhere.
In Japan, okay, a man can have a mistress. He can have intercourse outside of marriage, as long as he pays for it with money and not love.
When you are married, a girlfriend cannot be accepted. But a sex friend is okay as long as you don't betray your wife in your heart.
Technology makes a sex-for-money transaction easier. Websites advertising compensated dating are common, and mobile phones allow women to get to know a man before meeting him.
They meet a guy only when they think he is right. If not, they just don't meet him. That is why I think that women, especially those who are married, are getting the most benefit.
Whether it's compensated dating or the latest high-tech device, the Japanese boast the most advanced sexual and technological culture on the planet.
It's a society, middle class, not religious, essentially urban in character, very technology oriented, and very visually oriented. Then you add on the technologies we've been talking about. It's an exceedingly high-tech, pleasure-oriented entertainment society.
It sounds like a desirable lifestyle, and some futurists, including the renowned Kimindo Kusaka, believe Japan's boutique society, which is driven by playing, shopping, and mobile phone communications, is a bellwether for the rest of the world.
Kusaka, who is one of the sort of the gurus, if you will, of Japanese society, says that the Japanese are a uniquely 21st century society, and the world is going to become like Japan.
Only time, technology, and our evolving sex drive will decide whether the Japanese will lead the way into a world that's wired and wireless for sex.